Hello, and welcome to CDOT's online compliance training. In this video, we will be reviewing the process for completing and submitting the electronic sublet permit application form, or Form 205, through the CDOT B2G Now system. The sublet permit application form, or Form 205, is required anytime the prime contractor or one of their hired subcontractors makes an agreement to sublet with an individual, firm, corporation, or other legal entity to perform part of a CDOT contract. The Form 205 communicates to the project engineer and regional civil rights officer a request of those entities that are intending to enter into subcontracts under the prime contractor for the listed CDOT project. Contractors working on CDOT projects are required to submit an electronic Form 205 for each subcontractor that is to be included in the project. Contractors must receive CDOT approval of their Form 205 prior to any subcontractor beginning work on the project. Contractors must also submit an updated Form 205 to the CDOT engineer each time a new subcontractor is included on the project. It should be remembered, however, that the prime contractor is required to perform at least 30% of the original contract value of the work on the project with their own labor forces. To complete the Form 205, begin by locating the form within the CDOT Forms document library at codot.gov/library/forms/C.0205E. Download the Excel file to your computer and open the Excel spreadsheet. Click Enable Editing and Enable Content at the top of the spreadsheet. Section A of the Form 205 spreadsheet is where you will enter the information for the prime contractor. In Part 1, enter the project number, which will be the alphanumeric code made up of the letter C followed by 5 digits. For example, C12345. In Part 2, enter the current date, or the date you are submitting the Form 205. For Part 3, indicate whether the form you are completing is a new Form 205 or a revision of a submitted 205, and if so, indicate the number of revisions that have been submitted thus far. Part 4 will be the name of the prime contractor, and Part 5 will be their B2G Now vendor account number. Lastly, in Part 6 and 7, you will enter the name and email address for the designated contact person for the prime contractor. The next step is to complete the subcontractor information for the project. Enter the name of the subcontractor in Part 8 and their business address in Part 9. In Part 10, add the subcontractor's B2G Now vendor account number, and the subcontractor's preferred email address will go in Part 11. In Part 12, select whether the subcontractor is working directly for the prime contractor or is subcontracted under another subcontractor. If this subcontractor is hired under another subcontractor, indicate their tier in Part 13. For clarification, organizations subcontracted directly with the prime are Tier 1 subcontractors. Organizations subcontracted to Tier 1 organizations are Tier 2, and organizations that are hired by Tier 2 are Tier 3, and so on. Finally, in parts 15 and 16, you will indicate whether the subcontractor will act as a supplier, and if so, if the subcontractor will purchase over $10,000 from supplier firms. The next section will be where you enter the information for the B2G Now contract compliance contact. This is the person designated to oversee contract activity on B2G Now and who will be contacted in the event of any issues. In Part 17, enter the name of the contact. Enter their preferred email address in Part 18 and their preferred phone number in Part 19. Next, you will enter information regarding the work elements of the subcontract. Please detail any and all work items being subcontracted. Additional rows are provided on the second page of the spreadsheet as needed. Scroll to the bottom of the document to find these additional lines. Enter the WSB element, which can be found in the request for proposal. The item code will be the 8-digit code that is associated with each pay item. The item description will be the bid item description found in the proposal. If there are partial items being sublet, please indicate partial in the item description section as well. For the unit of measure section, you will indicate how the subcontracted items will be paid, either SY, CY, or LF, and this information should match the units in the bid tab. In exempt, indicate whether each work item is exempt, Y, or not, N. Exempt items include any specialty items, leased employees, and suppliers if you are using this form for additional DBE participation. Items marked as exempt will not count against the contractor's 30% self-performance goal. For subcontractor price, you will enter the price shown in the contract between the prime contractor and subcontractor. In the quantity section, please provide the amount of work contributed by the subcontractor in the designated units of measure. Lastly, enter the total amount of the contract sublet for each work item. In Section E, you will enter the information pertaining to the Form 205 submitted for the subcontract. In Part 21, enter the total amount of all Form 205 requests between this contractor and subcontractor previously submitted for this project. In Part 22, enter the total contracted amount for all work items listed on this Form 205. Remember to include any items entered on page 2 of the work items. Then in Part 23, enter the total amount of all Form 205 requests to date. In other words, the sum of Parts 21 and 22. For Section F, please thoroughly review the written statements. Be sure you understand the responsibilities and requirements of a prime contractor subcontracting work on a CDOT construction project. You are welcome and encouraged to print a copy of the Form 205 for your own records. There are multiple methods for printing the Form 205. First, you can select Print and only print the current or active form, or you can select Print and choose to print the entire workbook. Once you select the printing format, choose Adobe PDF as your desired printer, which will save the document to your computer as a PDF file. To submit your completed Form 205 to CDOT and B2G Now, first go to contracts.codot.gov in your internet browser and click the green Login button. Enter your username and password for your B2G Now account and log in. From your dashboard, select the Contract link to bring up a list of your firm's current contracts. Locate the contract you wish to submit a Form 205 for and click the View link to the left of the contract number. From the contract page, using the tabs at the top of the page, navigate to the Subcontractors tab. To begin, click the Add First Tier Subcontractor button. On the following screen, click the Get Vendor link near the top of the page. Here, you will search for the subcontractor you wish to enter information for. To search, enter the firm's name or the name of their designated contact person. Once you've located the correct firm, click the Select Vendor link to the right of the firm's name. If you are unable to find the correct firm, first contact the firm to ensure that they have an active account in B2G Now and request additional information to aid in your search. For example, their system vendor number or tax ID number. Then try your search again. Once you've selected the desired vendor, use the drop down menu to assign an address for contact regarding contract compliance. Next, complete all required fields, which will be designated by a red asterisk. For the subcontract percent/amount field, you will select by amount and enter the full amount of the subcontract. To include the subcontractor in compliance audits for the project, select Yes in the Include in Compliance Audits section. Please note that if the subcontract is to be fully prepaid, the subcontractor will not need to be included in the compliance audits. If the firm to be included is DBE certified, you will answer yes in the Count Towards Certified Goal section. Unless the firm will not be performing work under any certified work codes, then you will select no. With regard to the goal type, the DBE will always be the correct selection. You will never need to select ESB for this step. For the credit type, if the firm is a DBE with a commitment, they will be designated as race conscious, and a firm that is a DBE without a commitment will be designated race neutral. Under type of participation, select whether the firm will be acting as a subcontract, supplier, or trucker on the project. For the work description, please enter a brief description of the work that the vendor will be performing in the course of the project. If the subcontracted firm is DBE certified, the work code section will be pre-populated with NAICS codes. Select all of the codes applicable to the work being completed by the subcontractor and click the Assign Selected Work Codes button. Please make sure all of the applicable work codes have a green check mark beside them before proceeding. If the subcontracted firm is not DBE certified, you will not need to add any work codes in this section. Enter the award date of the subcontract in the subcontract award/commit date section, and please be sure that the subcontract award/commit date falls after the contract award date in order to avoid submission issues. For the estimated work start date, enter the date the subcontractor's work is currently scheduled to begin. Similarly, you will enter the currently scheduled date that the subcontractor's work is to end in the estimated work end date section. When prompted whether to add the vendor to the existing audits for the contract, you will select Yes if you have the need or desire to add the subcontractor to previous prompt payment audits. And if so, you will select the desired month and year to begin audits for the subcontractor. You will select No if the subcontractor is not to be audited or you only wish for the subcontractor to be included in future audits but not previous. You will leave the reference identifier section blank and move on to the Attach Files section. This is where you will attach your completed Form 205 Excel spreadsheet and any additional applicable forms, for example, a Form 1415, proof of any advance payment, or a copy of the signed contract. Please be aware that if you do not attach your Form 205 spreadsheet here, your sub request will be denied. To upload your files, click Attach and then choose Files. Select the desired files and click Upload File or drag the desired files into the section labeled Drop Files here. Click Submit and then click the X to close the file attachment window. In the comments section, you are welcome to enter any additional comments regarding the subcontract. Be sure to review all of the entered information to verify that it is correct. If you find the need to make any changes, click Edit. Once you're sure everything is accurate, click Save to save the information and submit the Form 205 for approval. If there are any issues with the information included in your Form 205 submission, you will be notified and the form will be returned to you in order to make the necessary edits and resubmit the form. Be aware that upon review, the Regional Compliance Officer may notify the engineer of any issues with the sublet. Additionally, the Regional Compliance Officer may identify instances where the DBE may not be eligible for credit for all listed work items. In this case, this information will be noted in the bottom section of the Form 205 upon its return. Remember that work on the project can only begin once the engineer has signed and returned the approved Form 205 to the Regional Compliance Officer. Thank you for watching this tutorial on completing and submitting the Form 205 Sublet Permit Application Form. If you have any questions about the material covered in this tutorial, please reach out to Catherine Wood, our Civil Rights and Subcontractor Compliance Specialist at lita.wood@state.co.us or call 303-757-9234. We look forward to working with you here at CDOT.